Now that we have a controller and we have a view, we could actually run the app, even though we don't have a model. I am going to quick take a look at the startup CS file because that's where our defaults are. And as we discussed last week, there are two methods in here, configure and configure services. Configure is required, and it contains the request pipeline, which is comprised of middleware. At the top of configure, it's checking to see if we are in development or production. Because if we are in development, if the environment is development, then we're going to use an exception page that has more information in it so that we can debug. Then we get into all of the middleware. And just to kind of refresh your memory, the first one, HTTPS redirection. If they key in HTTP, it redirects to HTTPS. Use static files. Basically, that allows you to use anything that's in the www root directory, anything that's in here. So that is where our CSS, JavaScript, and the Bootstrap files are located. It's also where we would put images. So if you added an images folder and put graphics in there, and you want to display the graphics on your pages, you have to have use static files in the request pipeline. Use routing indicates that you should use the routing conventions that are part of MVC. It looks at endpoints that are defined in the application to try to determine how to match up the request. Okay, and the endpoints are basically your controller and action method. Use authorization, that is where you are authorizing users, or it allows for authorizing users. And then use endpoints would be the default route for when the app first starts. And we talked about that last week. We also ran an app last week. And just as a quick review, the default is to use IIS Express, which assumes that you will be running your application on a Windows server. If you aren't sure of how you're going to run your application, if it's going to be on like Linux, Unix, or Windows, you don't know, then you're better off switching to the name of the application because that is cross-platform. Okay. And so once you have done that, then you can click on it to run the app. And if you switch your web browser, they quite often will display like security risk and different warning messages that you have to get past. And when I ran on Firefox, this is the error message I got. I actually ended up, I believe, clicking on advanced, which displayed this little certificate, and I had to click on accept the risk and continue. Once an app is running, you will see a stop button on the toolbar, and you can stop the app by clicking that button or by closing the web browser. As far as debugging goes, if you have compile errors, you will see them immediately because it won't be able to build your application, and it will not be able to display it in the browser. And you will see a little warning, and they'll ask you if you want to use a previous build. And I would say no, because you want to see the error and correct it. Exception errors happen while the application is running. And depending on the problem, there may be different ways that you can fix it. Okay, so it just depends on what the exception is.